We all know AI is a total game changer for education, right? But here's the thing. What happens when the very foundation it's built on, stable, fast internet, is a luxury, not a given? Today, we're going to dive into a fascinating idea: how to redesign AI so it works for everyone, everywhere, even when it's completely unplugged.
Get this, 100 years. According to some projections, that's how long it could take for low-income communities to get the same kind of internet access that high-income areas have right now. That gap is staggering, and it means that as AI gets more and more powerful, it also risks becoming more and more exclusive, leaving millions of students on the wrong side of a massive digital divide.
All right, so here's our game plan. We'll kick things off by digging into this educational divide. Then we'll introduce a really cool solution called AI Unplugged. We're going to see it in action with a huge case study in Brazil, then look at how the next wave of generative AI could change everything, and finally, we'll explore the massive potential packed into tiny AI models.
So first up, let's get into the central paradox of AI in education today. The promise is, it's huge, but there's this hidden catch. The more powerful the AI gets, the harder it is for many people to actually use it.
It's easy to assume that because most people have a phone, everyone's connected. But having a phone and having stable internet are two very different things. Just look at this. In low-income communities, only about 15% of people have reliable access. That's not just a small problem, it's a massive wall that basically locks millions of people out of the AI revolution.
And that reality leads to this incredibly powerful question from Professor Seiji Isotani. He asks, how can I bring the benefits of AI to people and regions where infrastructure is almost non-existent? This one question just completely flips the script, right? Instead of focusing on making AI more powerful, it forces us to ask, how do we make it more accessible? It shifts the whole conversation to the world as it actually is for billions of people.
And that question, well, it leads us straight to a new paradigm, a totally different way of thinking about building AI for education.
So, let's talk about AI Unplugged. The core idea is actually really simple, but it's also revolutionary. It's about designing for the constraints you have. Instead of starting with the assumption of super fast internet and fancy computers, you start with the reality on the ground, limited infrastructure, and you build your solution from there.
Okay, so what do you actually need to make this work? The recipe might shock you with how simple it is. All it takes is a basic mobile phone. We're not even talking about the latest smartphone here. And just intermittent internet. Like connecting just once a week is enough. That's all you need to sync up with a server, let it do the heavy lifting, and get valuable feedback sent back to the user.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds great on paper, but does it really work in the real world? The answer is a big, resounding yes. Let's take a look at a massive, real-world project from Brazil that proves just how powerful this approach can be.
So, to really get this, you have to understand the challenge they were up against. After being out of school for almost 2 years because of the pandemic, students all over Brazil were really struggling with their writing. The government needed a solution that could work at a massive scale in a huge country with really unequal access to technology.
And the solution they came up with was just brilliant. So here's how it worked. Students wrote their essays the old-fashioned way, by hand. Then their teachers used a simple app to just take a picture of each essay. Whenever they could get an internet connection, maybe it was just once a day in the principal's office, the app would upload those pictures. From there, an AI would analyze the writing and send a detailed report back to the teachers, showing them exactly where their students needed the most help.
And here's the part that just blows my mind: the scale. We're not talking about a little pilot program here. This was rolled out to 500,000 students. 500,000 across 1,500 different municipalities. It's just this incredible proof that AI Unplugged isn't some niche idea. It's a real, workable solution for education at a national level.
Okay, so that Brazil project was a huge success using, let's call it more traditional AI. But what about the technology that everyone's talking about right now? The next big question is, can we take the power of generative AI and make it go unplugged too?
Well, the answer might lie in something called small language models, or SLMs for short. The easiest way to think about them is like a tiny, super efficient version of a giant model like ChatGPT. They're so small and efficient, in fact, that they can run entirely on your phone with zero internet connection.
So let's just break down the key differences here. The big models, or LLMs, need a constant internet connection to talk to giant data centers. They're built for broad general knowledge. But the small models, they work completely offline, right on a standard phone. This makes them absolutely perfect for very specific, specialized tasks. It's a whole different philosophy.
You can already see how this just opens up a whole new world of possibilities, right? But as with any new tech, we've got to be real about it. So let's look at the incredible promise of this technology, but also the current reality of where it's at today.
The promise is, honestly, it's breathtaking. Just picture it for a second. Students in low-income families could have access to the kind of one-on-one support that's usually only available to the wealthy. Your phone could hold a personal tutor for homework help, a well-being coach to support mental health, and even a career advisor to help you plan your future. This could level the playing field in ways we are just starting to imagine.
Okay, but let's pump the brakes just a little. We have to be honest, we're not quite there yet. The small models we have today have a higher risk of what's called hallucination, which is basically just a fancy word for making things up. They can be a bit slow to respond, especially with voice, and they sometimes struggle with really complex instructions. Oh, and creating images or video? That's still out of their league for now. These are the big challenges that engineers all over the world are racing to solve as we speak.
And all of this brings us to one final thought. In a world that's obsessed with building bigger, faster, more powerful AI, this unplugged approach makes us stop and ask a different question. What if the true impact of AI isn't measured by its raw power, but by its reach? What if the most revolutionary AI isn't the biggest one, but the one that's designed to truly work for everyone?